Hey, Baruch Hashem. We're up to chapter 8, verse 5. Vayidaber Adonai Moshe Lemor. God spoke to Moshe saying, Kach hasalavim, Baruch atah Adonai Mocham Shakol miyeh b'dvaro. Kach hasalavim mitoch b'nei Israel. Take the children of Israel from within, take the Levites from amongst the children of Israel, v'tiarta utam, and you shall make them pure. V'tiarta utam, you shall make them pure. How are you supposed to take them? Rashi tells us, we're chapter 8, verse 5. Rashi says, Kachem midvarim. Normally the word kach means to take them physically, but here it means to take them with words. To convince them to come. And what should be the words? Ashrechem shetizku yoshamashim. You should say, how fortunate are you to be the shamish, to be the attendant on Makom. What a privilege you have to be the attendant to God. Explain to them the significance of their position. For chapter 8, verse 6. Good afternoon, Jeffrey. Good afternoon. So tell them about the importance of their job. Verse 7. So before the Levites can become Levites, you have to purify them. How are you going to purify them? Says the verse, you shall purify them. How do you do that? This is what you need to do to purify them. You have to pour the water, the ashes of the red heifer. It's called the mechatos. That's the water of purification. Rashi says, this is the ashes of the red cow. Shall efer apara, because there were some amongst the Levites who had come in contact with the dead, and so they needed to be purified. And then what do? Bring a razor over all their flesh, and then wash their garments, and they'll be purified. So you have to do three things. You have to sprinkle the water, the purifying water of the ashes of the red heifer. B, shave all the hair off their body. And C, wash their garments. Let's see what they're supposed to do. Mevirutar, Rashi says, Matzati b'divrei Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan. I found the following explanation in the words of Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan. So Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan is somebody who Rashi cites from time to time, and so here he's telling us. Hold on one second. Yeah. And Moshe Darshan was from Narbonne, which is Provence. So he was a little bit, but obviously before Rashi's time, but not that much prior to him. But he was in Provence. So Rashi was in northern France. There was two separate cultures, but he was able to quote him. Nitnu kapara al-bachoros shavdu avodah zara vikruya zivchei mesim hamitzorah korai mes iskikam tiglachas kimitzorayim. So what Rashi is saying is the Levites were being treated like lepers. That the lepers, when the Mitzorah goes through the purification process, he has to shave all the hair off of his body at the end of it. So too the Levites are shaving the hair off their body. So why are they compared to the Mitzorahim? Because since they were assigned, Rashi says, to serve in the temple as an atonement for the firstborn who worshipped idolatry with the golden calf, and one who worships idolatry is called the service of the dead, and also a Mitzorah is called some like their dead, so therefore they're required to undergo this shaving procedure. Seems a little bit forced, but that's the explanation that Moshe Darshan gives that finds favor in Rashi's eyes. And then after they do these three things, they sprinkle the water of the red heifer. They shave their head. They shave all the hair off of their body, and they wash their garments. Then they shall take the lakhu par ben bakar. They shall take a young bull, umin chaso, with its meal offering of soas b'lulav Hashem, and a fine flour mixed with oil. Upar sheni ben bakar tikach chatas. So they have to take one young bull, and what should they do with that bull? Rashi says that first young bull is called an Ola offering. Hu Ola, as it states, Vasei v'esechad Ola, Ru Karban Sibor B'avodah Zarah. How you doing, Avi? Baruch Hashem. We're in chapter 8, verse 8. We're studying Rashi. So the Levites were supposed to take two bowls. One bowl will be an Ola offering, and one bowl will be a chatas, a sin offering. Rashi says, "Na Talmud Lamar Sheni." Why does it say a second one? To tell you, just like the Ola was not eaten, Av chatas or nachelas, also the sin offering. Ubazu yesh smachot varav, and there is in this there's support for the words of Rav Moshe Darshan, who says in Torah's Kohanim. So, meaning to say, Rav Moshe Darshan is saying this opinion of the Talmud that why is that the chatas is not eaten just like the ola is not eaten. But Rashi says, I say shel Rasha that it was a ruling just for extenuating circumstances. That one moment, that really they should have brought a goat as a sin offering. L'chatas avodah zarah in parallel. Really, they should have brought a goat as a sin offering for idolatry with the bull, but they didn't. So okay, so it does. So this is all of the Levites together bring this offering. They bring this olah and this sin offering. Verse 9. V'krafta salavim lufnei ol moed. Hello, Thera, how you doing? Great to see you. Oh, Shep's over there. I can't see him because he's behind the pillar. V'krafta, great to see you guys. V'kalta as V'krafta as salavim lufnei ol moed. You should gather in the Levites before the ol moed. V'kalta is called das b'nei Israel. And you gather in all of the community. So what's going to happen here? What do you mean? It says in verse, you're gathering all the Levites. In order to understand this, you have to read, before we read the Rashi, you have to read the next verse. The next verse states, V'kraftes alavim lefnei Hashem, v'samchu b'nei Yisrael asideim alavim. The Levites come before God, and all the children of Israel place their hands on the Levites. You can imagine there are 600,000 men, and they're all placing their hands on the Levites. A lot of hands. Can you imagine that? What? They're all placing their hands on the Levites. Well, we'll see what they do. Rashi says, V'kalta is called adat l'fisha alavim. And that's, by the way, by far not the most astonishing physicality that's about to happen. We'll say that for a moment. Rashi says, because the Levites, nitunim karban kapara tachtehem, because the Levites have been given as an offering of atonement in place of the assembly. Meaning to say, the Levites are there to serve. It's an atonement offering. Instead of the community being punished, the Levites are serving. So therefore, Yavo v'yamdu al karbanam, v'yismechu asideim aleim. So basically, it's as though their bodies were being offered by all of Israel, because the Levites were taking the place of the firstborn because of the sin of the golden calf that the firstborn participated in. So the Levites take their place. So their bodies were viewed as an offering on behalf of the entire nation of Israel. So therefore, the entire nation was placing their hands and leaning their hands upon the Levites. So I can imagine this scene. Everybody places their hands on the Levites. Can you imagine? And now this is the most shocking thing. Ve'hinif Aaron es alavim tenufah lifnei Hashem. Aaron shall wave the Levites as a tenufah lifnei Hashem. He's supposed to pick up the Levites and wave them. How old is? What are you thinking, Thera? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we have a Levite here. So Aaron is how old? 83 years old, or maybe 84 at this point. And how many Levites are there? 22,000 Levites. So he's supposed to, or 22,300, I forget. So what's he supposed to do? He's supposed to pick up all the Levites and wave them as an offering before God. And after that, they can be allowed to be performing the service. So he's picking them 22,000 and waving them. Now, if you had to pick up 22,000 and love him, that would be a challenge in one day. I'm waving them. Imagine doing it to 22,000 human beings. Rashi says that's what happened. They have to be waved. Just like the guilt offering of a mitzorah, that animal requires waving while it's still alive. Shalosh tenufos ne'emru b'parashazu. Rashi says there were 3 wavings stated in this paragraph. In our pasuk, in the next pasuk, and in pasuk tes vav in 15. So it says Harishona livnei Kahas. The first one that we just read was the sons of Kahas. Therefore, it says about them what Vayu avodas avodas Hashem. They can now perform the service of the work because they are the ones who had to carry they had to carry the holy utensils. They bring a chumash, guys, right behind you. Great to see you. Haaron v'Shochan. They had to do that. Ashniel of Bnei Gershon. The second one was done by the sons of Gershon. That's why it says Tenufah Hashem, a wave offering to God. They also had to do the holy service, but they didn't carry the utensils. They carried the yerios, ukarasim, the panels and the hooks, which were visible inside the Holy of Holies. Vashlishis of Bnei Merari, and the third was for the Bnei Merari. But anyway, very clear that all the Levites were waved that day by all the Levite males were waved that day by Aaron. They didn't do that. That wasn't what the Torah asked for, because then they all have to serve. They all have to be inaugurated. They all have to be inducted. We're in chapter 8, verse 12. And then the Levites all had to place their hands on these 2 bowls. And they had to make one as a sin offering, one as an oil offering to Hashem. To atone for the Levites. And that's what it says here. Then Moshe had to stand the Levites before Aaron, lifnei banav, and before his children, ve'inafta otam, and wave them as a tenufah Hashem, and wave them as an offering to God. And then you separate the Levites from the children of Israel. And then the Levites belong to me. So that's the concept. Aaron had to be in excellent shape. He had to be in excellent shape. They used to say about the Chafetz Chaim when he was in his 90s, they used to see him running around. And they said, "Why are you running around?" He said, "Because the Beis HaMikdash could be rebuilt tomorrow, and then I could be the Kohen Gadol. I need to be in great shape. The Kohen Gadol have to be physically strong." So, what do you mean? Right, you could do it. It's a good question. No, this is a one-time thing. The Kohen, when he was inaugurated, each Kohen, when he was inducted, he had a service. But the Levites, this was the only time that they had this induction service. And then what does it say? V'ivdalta es alavim mitoch bnei Yisrael v'ayuli alavim v'achar chen yavohu alavim la'avodas ha'ol moed. Then the Levites shall come to worship or to serve in the Ol Moed. V'tiharto utam, and you shall purify them. Ve'nafto sam tenufa, you shall weigh them as a service. Ki nesunim heimali, they are given to me. Mitoch bnei Yisrael. They were given to me from amongst the children of Israel. Tachas pitras kol rechem bechor, in place of the firstborn. Kol mibnei Israel akachtu asamli, and I took them for me in place of all the firstborn. Rashi says, what does it mean the Levites are given? What are the two main jobs of the Levites? What were the two main jobs of the Levites? Who wants to say? They have to carry nitunim lamasa. Their job was to carry. And then, well, how you doing, Barbara? Join us. And then nitunim lashir. The Levites had two main responsibilities, according to Rashi. Their job was to carry, and their job was also to sing. They had another responsibility, in addition, which Rashi, for some reason, does not mention. What was the other primary responsibility of the Levites? Well, that was not necessarily. Well, they lived in their cities of refuge. But I'm saying, and there were teachers of Torah, obviously, but they had another primary responsibility. Actually, what did you say? Well, they're serving the Kohen, but that's like extraneous. That's what they do today. But in the temple, their job was to be what? Well, that's the song, but their primary job was to be the watchmen, the guards of the temple. They had to guard. They had the weapons. They had stand as sentries. To stand as sentries. That's the job of the Levite, to be the protector of the children of Israel. Wait, where does it say they were exempt from going to war? No, they went out to battle, especially if it was a mitzvah. They weren't counted amongst the rest of the children of Israel. The Mishkan, but they would go out to battle. First of all, if it's a Melchamet mitzvah, a war which is a mitzvah, which is a war to conquer the land of Canaan, or a war in self-defense, the Talmud is clear. That you even go out, even the bride and the groom go out from their wedding to fight and to provide defense. The bride will do civil defense, on the home front, and the groom will go out to battle. The groom will go out to battle. All the exemptions that the Torah lists for a person who's in his first year on marriage, who has not consecrated his vineyard, those are if it would be an optional war, like just to expand the boundaries. But if it's an obligatory war, everyone's required to go. And so the Levites, I make so many mistakes every single day. So every day I forget stuff, but I never heard that they were exempt. It could be, Max, can you Google it? So I know that they didn't serve in Egypt as slaves. They didn't serve in Egypt as slaves. And not only that, there was a Kohen whose job it was to go out to battle and to encourage everyone to go and fight. That was called the Kohen HaMashuach Milchama, the Kohen who was anointed for war. But everybody had to fight, and assume he did. Why wouldn't he have to fight? That's not one of the exemptions. There are some exemptions that are listed, but that's not one of them.
ChatGPT says that.
ChatGPT, they're so unreliable.
As the person that popped up in this.
What do they say? They don't have a source. I don't trust them. There's something called Google. I trust Google more than ChatGPT because they give me the sources. Okay. Anyway, Max will get back to us. What? What do you got, Max? We need Rabbi Yosef today. He's also so Max.
Well, they weren't included in the count.
But yeah, they weren't included in the count because their service started earlier. They were starting to be counted from 30 days, whereas the rest of Israel was counted from the age of 20. They were counted earlier. And also they had to serve in the temple for a period, like the Kohanim, but when they weren't in the temple, presumably they had to go out to battle. The
Rambam says that they don't wage war like the rest of Israel.
Like the rest, what does it mean? What does he say? Yeah, give me the citation. We'll look it up. Okay. Rambam writes, Lama lo zachawevi. Okay, so the Rambam from Laws of, I clicked on, wait. Here's a question. Somebody wrote a whole article, Daron Lazarus. Was Shevet Levi really exempt from the army? So first he cites our verse. Take the Levites from amongst the children of Israel and purify them. Then he cites different pasuk, do not count the Levites. So Rashi says there, it's sufficient for the legion of the king to be counted alone. So God saw that in the future there will be a decree on all those who are counted that they'll die in the wilderness. So he said, don't count them. Meaning to say they weren't not counted because they were going to not serve, but because he wanted to save them. But now we go to the source, the Rambam. The Rambam writes, so this is the interesting thing. We don't know, Rambam, when he writes, we don't know his sources. He doesn't list it, but let's see if they tell us this. Lama, he says, why did the tribe of Levi not get an inheritance in the land of Israel and in its spoils with the brothers? Because they were separated to serve God. L'sharto u'orot derachav. They're teachers, as it says, Yoru mishpatecha Yaakov, the Torah Israel. Therefore, they did not go out to war like the rest of Israel. That's his language. But we have to read this Rambam because I am pretty sure that is not referring to a defensive war, but a war of conquest, which is different. He says not only the tribe of Levi, but every single person who comes and stands before God to serve God, to know knowledge, basically he does not have to basically get involved in doing that type of service. Meaning to say, in the wars of conquests, there were exemptions. They didn't die. Wait, let's see what they say here. Hold on, let's see. So, here, Rashi, he's very good. He recites a source. I don't know who this person is, but he cites a source that I forgot, but it's right there. Rashi to Numbers chapter 26. You could go down a rabbit hole. You pull up the Sefaria. So he says, Rashi to Numbers chapter 26, verse 13 says, Matzati b'Talmud Yerushalmi. I found in the Jerusalem Talmud that when Aaron died, the cloud of glory departed. And so all of a sudden we didn't have the cloud to protect us. Uboa Kananim lilachem b'Yisrael. So the Canaanites came to wage war against Israel. And they were about to go back to Egypt. And they started to turn around. And they went back 8 journeys. And what happened then? And it says, the Radfu b'nei Levi acharayim lachziram. The Levites ran after them to bring them back, and they killed 7 families. So the Levites were warriors. We know that when Moshe came down from the golden calf and saw the golden calf, he said, whoever is for God, come to me. So it's not just in the text, it's also in Rashi here. So, and also in Chronicles, it lists that the Levites sent 4,600 men to the army. Okay, anyway, bottom line is, there he cites. This is what, this is the verse I was citing before. The Mishnah in Sota says, when do we have all these exemptions? That's by a war of conquest. But if it's a Melchamet Mitzvah, a defensive war, Hakol Yotzin, everyone must go out to battle. Even the groom from his room and the bride from her chuppah. And Amar Rabbi Yehuda, when do we say that? By Melchamet Mitzvah, but by an obligatory war, everyone goes out. I want to say that in, does he have any more sources? It keeps going. Anyway. They serve on the home front in biblical times. Nowadays, women, nowadays we know that women can make, although I know that the Secretary of Defense of the United States wants to say that there should, I don't know what the policy is. I think he said he wants to say no women in the army, but Israel doesn't have that luxury. Israel needs every single person who can fight. And the women on October 7th in the tank unit, they literally saved the country that day. The tank unit is like a famous story about the women. You heard this story about the women, the all female tank unit that day in the South that saved the country. Has anybody heard this story? Okay, you look that up, you'll see this just incredible story that these Hamas fighters were killed by an all-women tank unit. But I don't know. I had this. So what I wanted to say, and this, I guess we'll end with this, is I personally was at weddings in Israel where they went straight from the wedding back to the front lines. So they fulfilled this Mishnah that the bride and the groom went straight from the wedding. They gave them the night off, and the next morning they had to go back and fight. So that's what we're talking about. We're dealing with some of the holiest people in the world. We're dealing with those people. Okay, so who's ready to daven mincha? Oh, what do you find? You found there? Somebody can find the story of the all women's tank unit, and you'll let me